In previous lessons in this course, we've briefly had a look at how autosum and autofill work. So it's time now to take a deeper dive into these two really powerful utilities. So currently I'm working in the autosum and autofill workbook. And I'm clicked on the Example 1 tab. And on this tab, we have a table with some values that we need to complete. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to complete this totals row at the bottom. And as we've seen previously, we're just doing a sum calculation here. We can use the autosum button. And if you recall autosum, you'll find that on the Formulas tab in the Function Library group. Or alternatively, you can use the keyboard shortcut of Alt equals. Now remember, because I have a number in that top row, I need to adjust the selection and then I can hit enter. And because we want to copy this formula across to the other years, we can simply use the autofill handle in the bottom right hand corner and drag that formula across. Now we have our little warning triangle, so I'm going to click the warning symbol and I'm just going to say ignore this error. So now let's use autofill to complete the rest of these empty cells. So the first thing I'm going to do in this totals column is we're going to do a very simple sum calculation, and we're going to add up all of the sales figures for January C3 to F3. Close the bracket, and I'm going to do Control Enter so that I stay in the same cell. Now notice over on the right hand side, I've just listed out there 4 different methods for auto-filling formulas down. And we've already seen a couple of these, but there are a couple in there as well that we haven't yet taken a look at. Now the first way to auto-fill down a formula is to hover your mouse over the autofill handle and double click to copy that formula down. Let's move to column H and let's work out the averages. And again, we're using the same cell range. And this time what I can do is simply drag that formula down. In the next column, we're going to do a min formula. And remember, min returns us the lowest value in our cell range, C3 to F3. Now, the third method that I can use to fill down is I can select all the cells that I want to fill this formula in. Go to the Home tab, and then over in the Editing group, notice we have a drop down here next to Fill. And I can choose Fill Down, and that's going to fill that formula into those remaining cells. And similarly, an even quicker way of executing that, let's just put in our max formula at the top here. Control Enter. We can pretty much do exactly the same thing by highlighting all of the cells and using the keyboard shortcut instead of Control D to copy that formula down. And then of course, once these are done, if I want to complete the totals as well, I can simply drag my totals formula across. And in a couple of minutes, we have a completed worksheet. Now, staying on this subject of autofill, there are still a number of different options that we haven't looked at yet. And all of these little autofill options are so helpful when it comes to being able to input data into your worksheets quickly and efficiently. Now, I did mention earlier I was going to show you a quick way of adding in lots of numbers into a worksheet. For example, maybe I need to enter into this worksheet numbers 1 to 200. So instead of going through and typing in 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, I can get Excel to do all the hard work for me. Now what I'm going to do here is a little trick, which involves accessing a hidden menu. So I'm going to type number 1 into this first cell. And then what I'm going to do is using my right mouse button, not my left, my right, I'm going to hover my mouse over the corner of that cell so that I get the little autofill cross, hold down my right mouse button, drag down one cell, up one cell, and release the mouse, and it's going to present me with a little secret menu. And this allows me to fill my cells in different ways. So I'm going to say fill series. And what I want to do here is I want to fill the column with numbers The step value is the value which I want the numbers to increase. So I want them to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So my step value is 1. And I want it to stop at 200. And if I click on OK, check that out. I now have all of those numbers input. Control down to go to the bottom. The last value there is 200. So that's a really nice, quick way of getting lots of numbers, long lists of numbers into your worksheet. Now we can do a similar thing here if we want to fill down dates. So quite often in spreadsheets, you'll have dates. So maybe if you're putting together an invoice spreadsheet, you're going to have the dates listed out of all of the invoices. So what you could do is type in the first date, let's say the 1st of November 2021. And if I autofill down this time, notice that it autofills down consecutive days. So simply by using that autofill handle, I'm going to get the 1st of November, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, so on and so forth. And that's absolutely fine if that's what you want. In some cases, you might want a different kind of date. So maybe I want to fill down the last day of every month. So how would we do that? Well, let's type in the last day of January. So that is the 31st of the 1st, 2021. Now, as I said, if I go to copy this down, the next date it's going to fill in is going to be the 1st of February, 2nd of February, so on and so forth. Now we can change this simply by dragging the autofill button down, and I'm just going to drag down to there. But notice when we drag down, we get this little what we call a smart tag at the bottom. And if you click this, it's going to open up some additional autofill options. And from here, we get to choose what dates we're filling down. So if I want the last day of the month, I could say fill months. And it's going to change all of those like magic to now display the last day of the month. So don't forget about this little smart tag when you drag down. It's always worth having a look in there and seeing if something else fits more with what it is that you're trying to do. Now we've already seen how we can type in the name of a month and then simply use the autofill handle to drag down to fill in the other months. The same works with days, and this works with the long version of the day or the short version of the day. Once again, I can drag down to complete those days, and it will just loop around until you choose to stop filling cells. So where does this come from in Excel? Well, these are actually what we call custom lists, and you'll find your custom lists underneath Excel options. If we jump into File and go down to Options at the bottom, and then into the Advanced page, if we scroll all the way down to near the bottom, you'll notice that we have this little button just here, Edit Custom Lists. And when we jump into here, you're going to see all of those patterns that Excel recognizes. And it's because this exists here that Excel is able to copy down the months of the year and the days of the week. And if you wanted to, you can create your own custom lists and use them in the same way. Now I could choose to import a list that I've got in a worksheet, so maybe in some cells, or I could choose to create my own custom list. So if you click New List at the top, I can then type in my list entries. So maybe on a frequent basis, I have to type in the names of all of the people that work in my department. And instead of doing that manually, I want to be able to just type in the first one and autofill down. So I'm going to create a brand new list with the names of everybody who works in my department. So we're just going to have 4 people. And let's say Add. And you can now see that I have a new custom list. So if I click on OK and OK again to come out of options, now if I want to fill in those employees, all I need to do is type in the name of the first one, and then Excel is going to recognize that custom list, so I can simply drag down. So all of these autofill options are definitely worth exploring because they really do make you more efficient when you're working in Excel.